Hello, this is an assessment of a Welmar upright piano, 129 centimeters tall, made in about 1932. And it's a fine instrument, but it has a big issue which we need to look at. The client's asking us to try and recondition it if it's possible. So this one we can see here, manufactured by Bluthner, London. So there's a big tie between Welmar and Bluthner, as we mentioned before, and I've just done a video of a Welmar that we've just rented out. Actually, you can look at the ivory keys; they're all perfect, but they need buffing. Really, they're quite they're not shiny, so they tend to attract the dirt when they're not shiny. So certainly if it was a stock piano, we would buff the keys automatically. So they're all quite rough feeling. As I say, if they're shiny, then they don't attract dirt, whereas if they're rough like this, they tend to attract dirt. There was a caster that came out on the removal, and it was obviously loose. So it removes remarkably well on 3 casters. I don't think I've ever known a piano move so well. They're perhaps pedals are slightly on the high side. At 7.5, you can see that it's shiny on the end because the feet tend to be on the end of the pedal. And if I put my foot there, you can see I'm touching the end. So it's a little bit on the high side, could be lowered, possibly putting some felt just above it would lower it a bit. And the other way is putting smaller casters on, though these are the original casters, I think. There's plenty of legroom, 63.5 centimetres from here to the floor. 62 would be normal for, say, like an upright Yamaha. So you could lower the casters, though, taking the originals off. So it's quite a long job to do, but certainly possible if you want the pedals to be a bit lower. And the casework is generally quite good. There's a patch there. There's something in a French polish you could tidy up rather than repolish the whole piano. And the top is quite scratched. That's so common, really, because people put things on the top of the piano. So that could be improved while it was with us. There's some veneer missing on this toe too, so you could take all the veneer off and then put new veneer on and then try and match it in. That's a long job, or you can try and wax in this and try and make it look good. Oh, internally it's in generally good condition, but there's a major issue which we're going to look at in a second. But I wanted to show you this. This is not a plaque, actually. This is just a sticker piece of paper put on, which says, and there's quite a lot of them have this written on it, the Welmar pianos are manufactured in London by Bluthner and Company, and must not be confused with the famous Bluthner pianos made in Leipzig, Germany. I'm always quite amused by that one. And this is a plaque inside one that we've just rented out. Sorry, it's on my iPad, and that's why I've got this here, as I've stopped the video. We've rented the piano out now, so we can't, I haven't got the piano in stock, though I haven't got an image with me, sorry about that. So here it just says the Welmar pianos are manufactured by Whelpdale, Maxwell and Codd. That's the name they gave the name Welmar, which is a bit easier to say. Formerly Bluthner and Company Limited, and then we have the address there. So interesting. I'm not completely certain of the exact history, so if you're watching this and you do know the history, please do write a comment. Now, Welmar put this number 214049, which implies 1937. But they also have this internal number here, 18042, which implies somewhere around about 1932. I would date it older than the one that we just rented out, so maybe, let's say 1932 is correct, though I'm really not quite sure about that. While we're down here, the soundboard is really in excellent condition, and the strings, so everything gets a positive tick in terms of condition, but there's one issue which we're going to look at now. Now, whether it's worth restoring a piano, we usually look at the underlying tone. And the underlying tone there is good, but there's an issue. As you can hear on that A, there's a loose tuning pin there, and there's several loose ones. Another one, and that's a very loose tuning pin. So there's this pin here, and we'll just see, if we try and turn it, then it goes back down again, as you can see. So if I try and bring it up to pitch, it goes back down again. So it's extremely loose. And now, the client was wondering whether we need to replace the rest plank, which is the wood behind here. I wouldn't say so, and if you're in the trade, do comment. But from my experience, just replacing these with larger tuning pins, probably 2 sizes up. Now, they are quite small tuning pins. You can tell from my lever, this is a standard medium style lever, fitting these are original tuning pins, so they're quite small, which is handy, and it's good when manufacturers do put small tuning pins in. It means you go up different sizes. A lot of restoration is done with these days, and the pins are a bit on the big side to start with, which is not a good idea, so we try and get them done with smaller pins. So we can replace this with pins 2 sizes larger. Now, do we need to replace the strings? I want to listen to the tone. That's obviously bad. If we listen to the break point. It's not bad at all, and this tone, it would improve with new strings, but these are beautiful sounding. Right down to the bottom bass sound very, very beautiful. So that would improve though with new strings. Obviously they get dirty and you can twist the strings, which gives a bit more life into them, but it was quite a good idea to change them if you're repinning. So there's a question there, do we repin without changing the strings or changing the strings? If you're listening to this video or watching it and you're not got access to new strings, then buying a set of tuning pins 1 and 2 sizes upwards, you'll need to vary the size. Sometimes you'll find that they're slightly larger in the bass. The new ones are slightly larger in the bass. In fact, these ones are. So you'd need bigger pins for the bass. If you replace the rest blank, you can put small pins in, obviously, if you want to. So just talked about this before, but it's an interesting question. Do you replace the string? The tone deficiency here, if there is one, is not so much the string but the hammer. They're quite soft, and when they get soft, they hit the string. They're soft, like a soft stick on a drum. They don't make a loud sound. This, by the way, I didn't notice before, that pin is very loose in the hinge. In fact, that one too. So we need to do some repinning of hinges too. If they're allowed to wobble like that, then the hammer gets damaged at the end there. So it wears out quickly, basically. So important to get those done. In fact, it's quite a lot, just beginning to go loose. So that's something which we'll have to attend to. These are quite tight. It's around here that they tend to be a bit on the loose side. Tapes are excellent, considering they're originals, I'm pretty sure. If you do take these off to work on the action, then I recommend putting some liquid on just to soften them up. My colleague says soap liquid, which is interesting. You can see as I pull that one up, it's beginning to damage. And it'd be really difficult to pull them off and put them back on. So replacing the tapes would be something. There's another damaged one you'd have to do. If you're going to do that, I think you'd have to replace all the tapes. So that's extra work. That's actually extremely well regulated. If we look at the hammers going to the string, the dampers are pulling off in almost the right place, halfway. The let off, it's setting off very late. So someone's regulated the piano very well. They've refaced the hammers. You can tell they're refaced, but if you look at the slightly grey colour here, they've been well refaced and done professionally, clearly. Also, the dampers are pulling off at the right time, and they're pulling off quite far, which is good. They're not too far, and they're definitely coming out from in between the strings here, which is what we've mentioned before we need to do. And they're pulling off, as I say, about the right distance, the hammer travelling about 1/2 to 2/3 towards the string. So that's all excellent. So the main issue, and the only desperate issue really, is the tuning pins. And do you replace the strings? The work of replacing the strings, sorry to go on about this, but it's a useful discussion, and if you're in the trade and would like to comment, the work is more than replacing the pins. No, not hugely more. You can break the string as you take it off and put it back on. It's possible, though it doesn't happen very often. Normally we can replace the pins and keep the string, and you won't break any on the way up. We're used to doing it, obviously. But replacing the strings will produce a better bass sound, and the amount of work involved, although the strings are costly, the amount of work involved isn't hugely different. Though when you put new strings on, you do need to pitch raise them several times to get them to stabilize, obviously. So it's a lot more work in that sense. Repinning, if you just put new pins in, then that's not so much. You have to wait. Don't have to wait for the strings to stabilize. So I hope that's all very helpful. So the major issue on this piano is the tightness of the tuning pins. So we're going to have to repin the whole piano at least, and possibly replace the strings. So that's something I'm going to think about. Try and give the right advice on that. And replacing the hammers, well, if you do, you'll get a much brighter sound, like a more modern piano. But you might like the tone of the piano, and you might feel that you don't want to do that because there's plenty of hammer left. So that's just a question of toning the tone of the hammers. Buffing the keys you mentioned, that's necessary. The weighting, so 64 is high. That's an up weight, by the way, is 40. That's very high, actually. If that was brought down to more like 50, that would go down to 30-ish, and then that would be more normal. But you can see, really lubricating the keys. If you want to test your own key on your piano, if you pull them up like this, don't pull the ivories from there. You might pull them off. You can't see it very well here, but earlier on I tested them and they should go straight down. So I think lubricating them will help a lot to reduce the weight. If you want it reduced any more, then we can do that. Obviously add weights to fronts of the keys. So I think that's the main issues on the piano. I made a mistake there and wrote that in the wrong place. If by the way, the music stand on these is only 38 centimeters long, and some upright pianos, it goes across the whole of the piano, like a Fatsa, for instance, which is a well-designed piano, and many other pianos that goes right across. So nowadays you might find that that's a bit small, but it's perfectly all right. Obviously that was a standard music stand and for older pianos. So it's reasonably kept in a very warm room, and that's the reason I'm told that the tuning pins have gone very loose. So it doesn't need a rest plank replacing, I'm pretty certain about that. It just needs bigger tuning pins, 2 sizes up, as tight as possible is what we want them, obviously. The casework is reasonable and needs touching up. I hope that's helpful. I'm not going to play the piano in a normal way because it's so out of tune, but I might just play some notes for you now just to listen to the tone throughout. So that's a Welmar upright piano, very out of tune, 1932 approximately. But I just wanted to make a few more comments and listen to the underlying tone, which is, you can discern the underlying tone. It's nice spreading across the soundboard. If you're used to Welmars, as we love Welmars, so we've had many Welmars, usually much later ones. 1970s Welmars is probably our most common ones that we have, and wonderful period for Welmar. But these older Welmars are also excellent pianos. They're often quite worn, and in this case you've got a problem with the tuning pins. But if you are in a part of the world and you've got a really lovely piano and you want to do something about loose tuning pins, it's a difficult issue. You can order new tuning pins, that's what I'd recommend really, and then learn how to replace the old ones with new tuning pins. Some people talk about using super glue. We have tried it just as an experiment before we changed the rest plank. We've not used super glue really, and we have tried it once on a grand piano. Not really convinced personally, but I know I'm going to get comments under this video saying that it's fine. So maybe I've got something to learn there. The touch is going to be excellent too. By the way, if you're learning on an older piano, if the touch is good, and the touch is already good on this one, just need to perfect it with the key weighting and so on. But it's as good as learning on a new piano, and tone-wise, I think nicer. So thank you very much for listening. If you've got an old piano and you want it restored, please do write to info@robertspianos.com.